Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
I have been so busy.
Yeah?
Yeah, just with work and school and my grandma dying and just doing everything, going back and forth between the nursing home, which is 3 hours away, and here, and helping friends move, and just so much.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Good.
Sorry about your grandma.
Oh, yeah, thank you. It's, she was not doing well health-wise, and she was 90, so it wasn't really a tragic feeling, but more just like a bittersweet farewell. And I'm glad that she's not suffering anymore. Yeah. And I'm glad that my mom isn't suffering taking care of her anymore, because it was really rough for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I got to be there with her, and that was a really valuable experience for me.
Yeah.
I do have an idea of what I want to work on for this. But do we want to do, are you still doing your minute of meditation or anything?
Would you like to have some minutes of meditation? You can have as many as you like.
I think I'm good either way.
All right, let me check myself.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, I can just sort of jump into explaining it. It feels like kind of a silly problem, and it cropped up right before I came here, which I feel like things usually tend to do for some reason. But it feels silly, but it's also connected to so many different things that are burdening me.
Yeah.
So I'm taking classes, getting my master's degree, and I have made the the important discovery that you don't have to read the entire textbook or do all of the readings in order to do well in the class. And so this class that I'm taking, and today is the last day, and I just sent off my last assignment like right before I got on call, like 2 minutes before. But so we were supposed to read this whole textbook, but the discussion exercises didn't really require that much out of us textbook wise. Like basically I got through the class just fine without reading it really at all. And but the professor had these 2 quizzes that were each 10% of our grade, I guess. And they were very, very, the professor was a nice person, but they were very, very lazily constructed quizzes. Literally just taking direct quotes from the book. And it was basically, I guess, to check if you had read it or something. Because some of the answers, like, it was like multiple choice, and there would be a question, and like 2 or 3 of the answers would be perfectly valid if you were just talking about like what's true. But I could tell that she wanted us to pick like what was written in the book. And so for the first quiz, I got like a free trial of a textbook, like where you can see the book online and read it online. Of course, the entire book is searchable. And so I searched for the answers, and but I didn't even need to. Like, I went back and looked through every question, and there was really only one that I got right instead of wrong because I had the answers. I really could have just gone on intuition and done fine. And that is what I did for the second one. And again, I did okay. But parts of me are very much right now, like, parts of me are very obsessed with getting an A and with legitimately earning that A. And so somebody just got really triggered today, being like, what if the fact that I searched for these answers, even though like she never even said that it was a closed book quiz or anything like that. But part of me was like, what if I did something wrong? And what if I don't deserve my A? And it's just a very me thing to do. And I'm very tired. I'm very tired of needing good grades in order to feel like a person. I'm tired of needing to act perfectly ethical in order to be a good person. And I'm tired of stupid stuff like this that I know shouldn't be the way that I even value myself in the first place. I'm tired of these stupid little ethical quandaries like getting in the way of me actually living a meaningful life. So I'm not sure what to do. Like, these parts.
And you said like the teacher didn't even say it had to be closed book or open book.
She didn't.
So it feels like it's just all in you. Like this whole battle is just in you.
And I could say that, oh, maybe she assumed that we would all have like hard copies, but why would she assume that? It's 2024. So why wouldn't she assume that we could search through the book for the answers with like a find command? I don't know. It's just very strange that I'm so torn up about this, but I also want to listen to it because I know if I don't, I'm just going to feel horrible about it. So
Okay. So there's the obsessed with getting an A, and then there's like needing to legitimately earn the A.
Yes.
Do those feel like different parts or different qualities?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
There's a part that really wants to get an A because I wasn't always that great at school in the past, and it wants to sort of remedy some of the bad feelings from that and be like, look, I got a 4.0 GPA my entire grad school career. I beat it. I solved it. And then there's another part that's like, if you act unethically, you're a bad person and you don't deserve anything. And that's probably Undeserver.
Okay.
And then so Undeserver, what he's doing is kind of threatening this other part and being like, oh, you want your A, but like it doesn't mean anything if you didn't earn it legitimately. So you don't get it. You don't actually get it, even if you do get it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then there's the parts that say this is silly, or they're just tired of this whole
Yeah, some parts think it's silly. Some parts are just tired of stuff like this getting in the way of me being happy because it just feels really dumb.
All right. Well, yeah, I can see how you mentioned how it could be like connected to a lot of other things.
It is. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's acknowledge the parts that are just tired of it. Let them know that we're going to try to go in there and see who needs our help and see if they'll give us space to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, they really want us to, that part really wants us to do that. It's like, please do something because this is so dumb. And I've been dealing with concerns like this for such a long time, and it just like it gets in my way all the time. It's very like this neurosis that I've been dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would like that.
Okay.
Very much.
Okay. So which one do you think we should go to first? The obsessed with getting an A, or the kind of you don't deserve it ethical part?
Don't know. I feel like either one could be. Maybe the obsessed with getting an A, because I feel like I've heard from Undeserver a lot already. And I want to hear what this one needs.
Okay. All right. How do you notice that in your body? What are the sensations that come up around that part?
Shame, I guess, which is not a sensation, I know. But like, I guess a feeling in my stomach, a feeling of dread, like things of just like the floor has fallen out, like no, fucked it up.
Right. These would be the feelings if you didn't get an A, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm wondering if the obsessed with getting the A is maybe one part, or the protective part, the driver, manager perhaps, and then what it's trying to prevent is maybe kind of separate a little, which is the shame, the dread of what it feels like to not get the A.
Yeah. There's definitely, I guess, a part that's trying to prevent that shame from being triggered, or that disappointment. Yeah.
Okay. So it makes sense to you why this part's working so hard?
Yeah, it does, because that disappointment is scary. It's just a bummer. Yeah, because I was excited about the idea of a 4.0. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you feel towards the one that's doing that hard work, really focused on getting the A?
I feel I think I'm blended with that part, so I don't really feel anything towards it. Like, I guess It's feeling some self-recrimination right now. It's like, oh, geez, why didn't I think of this beforehand? I could have easily avoided having this moral quandary if I had just like thought harder about it, because like nothing is worth this. Like I could have freaking just taken the quiz without doing anything. I could have actually read the book. Like I could have done something different, and now I can't.
So that's in response to being kind of persecuted by the undeserver?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So you can let it know from me that makes sense. It makes sense why it feels that it's kind of being shamed by the undeserver part.
It is, yeah.
And and itself is trying to prevent the shame of not getting an A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Me too.
And I also want to send that part, the message that I'd love to meet these other parts that it's working around, so they all matter.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if there's more that this one wants to tell us, just about anything itself, how long it's been doing this job, how it likes it.
Yeah. I guess it's probably the tired one. It's just so sick of doing everything to prevent some kind of screaming bitch fight in my system, and it's so tired of like failing to prevent it. Sometimes it just feels like my system is like too neurotic and sensitive to live. Like because worrying about stuff like this all the time isn't living. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's hoping that that's not the case, and that, or not inherently the case, and that these parts can be worked with to help them let go of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But its fear is that I'm just not cut out for life.
Or that this will be your life. Is this just incessant?
Yeah. Just worry until I die.
Yeah. I get it. Okay. Well, all I know to offer is to work with parts and see how they respond. And, if IFS, if going to parts doesn't get a response from them, then I don't know, maybe there's some other mode or some other method. But that's all I can offer, and it's all I have much faith in.
Yeah, I guess.
And psychedelics.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
But there's almost like, it's like, God damn, at some point it's like, I can't take a psychedelic every time I have a problem. And like, the psychedelics are supposed to give me like
to work, and right.
Yeah. Like, and so far, apparently, the ones that I've taken haven't done that yet.
Yes.
So,
yes. Okay.
Yeah, this part is just really, really wanting something to help.
Okay.
It's not that the things I've tried haven't helped. It's that they apparently just haven't helped enough yet to be free of this craziness.
Okay. So if we're acknowledging that this part is kind of suffering under the undeserver, and it's also working hard for the shame that you would experience if you didn't get the A, does it have a request about like where we would turn our attention? Does it want to see us go work with one of those other parts, or stay with it and learn more about it?
It thinks that going to the part that's feeling the shame could be helpful, and it thinks that because I've already had a little bit of success doing that, just like in between being at work and coming here, like the progress that I've made in calming down about this has been when I feel like self got a little bit in touch with that part, and I really started to connect with this idea that, like, whatever happens and whatever I choose to do about this situation, like, not getting an A is not going to kill me, and it's not, and worrying about that is not like it has, it doesn't need to be a stand-in for like actual self-worth and actual meaning in life. So I feel like, I feel like continuing to do that is the way to go because it's already helped a little bit.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to try to turn to that part that feels shame if you don't get an A.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you notice that one?
Like that feeling of dread, or like crushing disappointment. It's not even all shame. Some of it is just like, damn, I really wanted this. And what if I've screwed it up now? And there's this urge to check constantly whether I've screwed it up. Because this part wants to know, like, did I or didn't I? Do I get the thing or do I not?
Yeah. And how do you feel towards that part?
I feel upset, but I also feel kind of worried for it, and I understand. Like, I feel like its concern is valid. Like, it just wants to know the answer.
Okay.
And there are a lot of times where this part just wants an answer, and the protectors are running around screaming, so it can't get one.
Yeah. And the answer it wants?
The answer it wants is that everything is fine, and the protectors are making a big deal out of nothing.
Okay. But when you or I say to this part, everything is fine, it doesn't just accept that, right?
No, it doesn't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it has a belief that things aren't fine.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's not fine.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like, well, I'm not sure actually if it's that part that feels that way or if it's Undeserver who feels that way, because I was trying to tune into that thought, and a lot of the thoughts I was having in response sound a lot like him. Like, well, why would anything good happen to me? Why would anything be simple? Like, I just don't want to face myself. I just don't want to. There are things that I just can't handle. Stuff like that.
Okay.
So I think he cut in to the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does Undeserver carry shame?
Yeah. I think shame is his number one thing.
Is he okay with us learning about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
He feels like I'm weak-willed. And like, sure, I try to do the right thing, but if there was ever a scenario where like doing the right thing was too hard, I would wuss out and do the wrong thing and justify it to myself. And he's constantly on guard against that.
Okay. So you say I'm weak-willed. Is that Undeserver saying I'm weak-willed? Is that Undeserver pointing to another part that's weak-willed? Like,
that is a good question.
Yeah, is he pointing out or is he pointing in?
He's
to himself.
Yeah, who is weak-willed?
Yeah.
I think he is pointing to himself, at least partially.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't trust. He doesn't trust that he'll be allowed to be honest without the repercussions being overwhelming.
Okay.
Yeah.
I find that to be really courageous of him to share.
Thank you.
To admit or to share that some of the shame is his own, and
Yeah.
and to be vulnerable and say that, he has a concern that, or doesn't trust that he'll be allowed to be honest.
Yeah. Huh. He tends to reject all notion of him being not all notion, but I felt his response being like, well, oh no, I'm not good. I'm not courageous.
Yeah.
Like it was another part that said thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was just commenting on that thing that he said. I thought that one act of being vulnerable took courage. So I really I don't know that I can sum up his whole existence, and I don't tend to do that in the way I see parts
Yeah.
in people. So I was
No,
just appreciating that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, he's not entirely sure if it's like, it seems like it might be directed at himself because he's not very approving of himself or anyone, but he finds it very important to mention that like he doesn't even know if he's talking about himself. So
That's
he's
okay.
like, maybe I don't deserve the praise that you just gave me. Tell
You know
James
what? I appreciate that. You know what is interesting? For him to say that he's not even sure if he's talking about himself, I find that to be courageous too.
Oh, yeah. He's taking that in
Because
more. That's interesting.
he's taking that how?
He's taking that in more than the other thing. Yeah, he likes hearing that.
Yeah, he's being honest.
Yeah.
And he cares about who deserves what. He doesn't want to just take credit for something that's not his or that's important to him.
It is important to him.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And a lot of other parts see him as this like compulsive person that makes situations really awkward for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And they think he should be ignored because not even because he's right or wrong, but just because he sounds ridiculous. That's what other parts think.
Yeah. So why does he show up with that kind of energy? What is he wanting to accomplish?
He just wants to do the right thing or saying he wants to do the right thing sounds like it's some kind of like high-minded noble thing, but really he's afraid of how he's going to feel if someone does the wrong thing in my system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's like terrified of what kind of person it would make me if I did something wrong.
Yeah. And he's had some experience with that, times when it's felt like we did the wrong thing and now we have to live with this.
Yeah, he's felt like that. But usually whenever I confess something I've done to someone, like the person almost always thinks that I'm being silly for even worrying about it, which is nice on one hand. Like when my ex died, he was like screaming bloody murder about how I should have done more.
Mm-hmm.
And then every person I told about that, they were like, "What, are you kidding? You did so much. It's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous how much you did." And I was like, "Yeah, like you're right, but this dude still feels this way."
Yes.
Yeah. So it feels like his feelings don't, even if they line up with objective reality, which I'm not sure about, they don't line up with like common sense and what most people would do in a situation.
Yeah.
I feel shame about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we have had conversations like that, and I wanted to really empathize with that, in that, the way this part feels is the way it feels. And I don't want to add to those voices of, hey, you're fine, you're wonderful, you did everything you could. If that's not his experience, I want to just honor the way he feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So he's got this question hanging over him of like, what kind of person would that make me?
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of person would that make me? Which, yeah. So he feels himself feeling that worry, and then he attacks himself for worrying. So I guess he is talking about himself after all. He's like, well, I'm just worried about it because I'm worried about my image. It's a selfish concern. It's not actually concern for being a good person, which means that my judgment is suspect, which means that I have to err on the side of caution and keep interrogating myself endlessly.
Okay. Would it be all right if we spend a little more time on that point just so I can understand it?
Yes.
Okay.
So he like sees that he's doing things out of fear instead of like true wisdom. And then he uses that as a reason to attack himself even further and never let himself off the hook for anything ever.
Okay. I have so many questions coming up.
Yeah, feel free.
Okay, so is it true that when he's thinking about the question, what kind of person would that make me? That the only concern is about your image? Like, that question might as well just be, what kind of person would other people think that I am? Is that the only concern?
It's not the only concern. Like, it's not completely true, but it is significant. And he's got sort of a right idea with it because he is sort of always acting out of desperate fear instead of from a place of self. And he knows that that's not good. And I would agree that it's not good.
Okay.
Like, not that it makes him a bad part, but just that, like, yeah, like, you're not really gonna make clear, healthy decisions when you're operating from that place.
Okay. All right. That's helped answer some other questions I had. So what kind of person would that make me is both in the eyes of others, but also how I am viewing myself, how parts I am seeing myself.
Yeah.
And when you talked about acting out of fear instead of true wisdom, you're the true wisdom meaning kind of self activity versus fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's trying to get the fear of doing something wrong to go away rather than like being actively motivated to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. But is the fear of doing something wrong mostly his own?
Um,
I was like, is that some other part that he wants us to get to go away, or does that feel like something he carries himself?
He does carry that fear. I do believe it's a lot of it is him.
Okay.
Because I've in some cases I've gotten to like a part that's below him, like a part that he's exiling, and met that part and found that that part was full of good things and positive energy and stuff.
Yes.
So it's almost as if he's more burdened than the parts he exiles in a lot of ways.
Okay. Does he have any thoughts or feelings about that? Is he aware of the exile work or his connection with it?
Well, the thing that I've gotten, and this is I think this is a different exile, so I can't really say that the situations completely compare. But I have an exile called Love who just literally loves people. And like, I won't say she's got no burdens, but when I tap into her, she is a tremendous source of like intuition and compassion and like self-like energy. And he exiles her because he doesn't trust her to be impartial and to have good judgment because he sees the way that other people are just go around according to their quote unquote loving impulses and just like run around doing whatever they want and whatever they feel and how that hurts others. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. But...
I don't know, but it does give me some clarity.
Yeah.
He sees both fear and love as kind of impulses that are in opposition to something like true wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't trust the emotional impulses, and he's concerned about things like being impartial. He's concerned about judgment. He's concerned about what kind of person would that make me, which sounds like a kind of that would have a cognitive answer, like, well, this kind of person, here's your stamp, here's your grade.
Yeah,
right?
he's like, tell me the right thing so I can just do it and stop thinking about it.
Yeah, okay. Where does that come from?
I know that I felt a lot of shame and guilt when I was a kid, and it kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. I know it didn't, but when you're a kid, just like a depression will just hit you and you don't even know why because you can't even look inside yourself that well. So yeah, I just had this one year where it just really there was one evening that I specifically remember that it just hit me and I just felt horrible and compulsive and guilty all the time after that and it was guilty. Like I remember thinking at the time, I feel so guilty. So I assume that's sort of his origin story. Like that's when he got burdened. But I have guesses as to what the cause of that is, but uh, it happened very suddenly. And that always kind of mystified me because as far as I know, nothing in particular happened that day. It just hit me.
Okay. We could try exploring that more sometime.
Yeah.
Oh, I have another question for this part. This one undeserver or concerned about judgment. Does he see, I mean, I hear that like we don't want to be like the people that are only acting on impulse.
Right.
Is there someone that is in that true wisdom state that he sees as like outside of this acting on impulse?
Well, he theoretically trusts self to make the right choice. And, like he has his reason why he exiled Love, but, my whole system has sort of noticed that when I let her out, good things happen. So he's like, yeah, like that feeling stuff is good. It has the potential to be good, but it needs to be watched.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my question was like, is he looking around the world and saying like, here's the people that are acting out of true wisdom and we want to be more like them? Or is this really just a competition with myself to be my own perfect self?
Kind of the second one.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like he sees anybody really acting ethically at the end of the day. He kind of fears that it's impossible, really, for anybody.
Because people act on their impulses.
Because they act on their impulses, and because the world and existence is just set up in this way that's like stuff has to eat other stuff to survive. Like there's no real way to be ethical. It's all a farce.
Something's got to give. Something's got to.
Yeah.
This shit rolls downhill. Yeah. Okay.
He just doesn't like that. Like I guess that's kind of the crux of it, is that he feels like existence itself is kind of a mean and cruel place, and he knows that self doesn't believe it is, but he's still like, why? Like, you haven't explained it to me. Like, come and explain it to me, self, because I don't get it.
When I'm thinking about existence and who knows how much self energy I'm in right now, I don't disagree that it's mean and cruel. I don't disagree that existence is suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, yeah, his question is like, how can it be suffering and also be like a good thing? And I've hit on that before with him. And actually hit on that big time in like a drug experience that I had. And the biggest answer that I got from self was that he has to ask the brutal questions and just keep asking them and keep expressing his sort of existential horror. So I guess, yeah, it's good to be reminded about that.
Horror sounds different than recognizing suffering to me.
Yeah, but it's something that he has to express. Not necessarily the real truth, but something that he feels, that he has to contend with. Like, yeah, I agree. Self probably doesn't feel horror about it, but
does he feel like he's been kind of lied to or sold something if people are telling him that existence is a good thing, that it's like, does he feel like it's he's being a rational observer of suffering, and he's hearing that if it's suffering, how can it be good? Like, who's telling him that it's good?
The main manager daughter is telling him that it has to be good because self is happy and self is okay, and life, and she's working off of legitimate insights, although she is doing a little bit of a spiritual bypass with it and not letting them figure it out for themselves. But she is telling him, like, it has to add up. It just has to be based on what I know. And he's like,
what does add up mean?
What? Oh, like I've gotten these insights from self, these like flashes of stuff that just felt really true. And one of them was life wouldn't exist if it didn't want to.
Okay.
And in the moment that I felt it, like I really felt that was true in some way. And
that has to do with adding up?
yeah, like if life wants to exist, like basically I have this way of seeing things, or way of trying to look at the world where that I've based on things I've read and things people told me and things that I've felt for myself, where it's like people have these near-death experiences, and most of the time they're incredibly peaceful, like people find self and they heal. Like there is clearly this healing presence at the center of us, and it's just, and like my friend has gotten into self and said the same thing, and she's like, yeah, I just get into this place where I just realize that like every experience is valuable, and even a life lived in suffering, like when that person dies, like their experience will have meant something anyway.
Okay.
And
So a lot of concepts here.
yeah.
Can I just repeat some of them back?
Sure.
Okay, I'm hearing about life has to add up.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm hearing that life wants to exist.
Mm-hmm.
That we have a healing presence at our center.
Yeah.
And that every experience is valuable.
Yeah.
Okay. And I am curious about all of those. I also, when I hear them all, they all sound like different statements to me.
They are, but it's all part of the same way of sort of justifying existence to myself. Basically, I think the overarching idea is that life is kind of a story that we're going through. Life is like a play, and we're actors. And if something happens in a play, something bad, the audience is still getting value from it. The performers are still getting value from it. And at the end of the night, they're going to take off their stage makeup and high five that they had a good show. And that's kind of what it feels like when I'm in a better place, or when I'm more blended with the manager that really, really is invested in finding all this out.
Yeah, that's my suspicion, is that is more of a blended position.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does it mean to justify existence to myself? Why is that important?
Because I don't want to believe that it's all for nothing, or that it's worse than nothing. Like, what would I do then? Like, I would continue living, but I wouldn't be able to be happy. The possibility of that would just be, yeah, nothing.
Okay. So there's either a justification for existence or there's nothing. And if there's nothing, then you couldn't be happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Would another word for justification for existence mean like meaning?
Meaning, yeah, but meaning isn't enough. There has to be something that makes it all okay, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm really curious about. And we don't have to keep, like, if this is frustrating for you or your parts, or this feels like it's not parts work, we don't have to do that. But I am really curious about like what is the quality of that?
Well,
like it has to be okay, or like what it means for it to be okay versus for it to not be okay.
the one thing I'll say is that, like, while this part daughter is in opposition to undeserver and frantically trying to find a way that things are okay, Like, she is definitely doing that, and it's definitely hindering my system's progress. But at the same time, her convictions come from a real place. And so it's like, while she's sort of doing it unproductively, she feels very strongly that some of the stuff that she's found out really is probably true.
Some of those positive
features
of the universe and existence.
Thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I read No Bad Parts, and I kind of believe in the world according to Dick Schwartz. Like, that self is kind of the ultimate truth, or like self will have the last word or something. So she believes that, like, a little bit shakily, but she does believe it. And Undeserver.
So many concepts coming at me. I'm just having trouble. Like, what does it mean? Like self? What does it mean? Like self is the last word? What does that mean?
Like things are ultimately okay, even though it seems like they're fucking horrible.
Yeah. So, hey, I have something I want to run by you and your parts.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing a lot of focus on like existence being okay, the universe being okay, or I don't know if you said universe, but yeah. And I'm wondering if these parts are looking around externally for what sound to me like kind of philosophical answers about like what's okay and what's the last word. And I'm wondering if their primary drive is a part in you that itself doesn't feel okay.
Oh yeah,
and doesn't feel worthy.
Yeah. Undeserver is, and he's probably responding to some exile, but he's the one. He's like, all the time, he's like, life sucks. Please prove to me that it doesn't. But I think it does. But please prove to me that it doesn't. Please prove me wrong. He's always doing that.
Is it my life sucks? Is it I suck? Or is it life?
It's like life sucks. Like life itself, like life is
so that's what I was asking. That's what I was asking, because I was looking for an exile there, and I was saying like, because that's kind of where I'm often finding myself in IFS. It's like I'm finding the part that says like I'm not okay, and then it's like, okay, let's get self with that part, and yes, let's have self have the last word, or heal that part by loving that part and showing it that part actually is okay in this internal family system where self is a kind of a godhead.
Right.
So that's why I was asking about that, because it's easier for me to navigate and understand compared to is the human condition okay? And I don't really, it's hard for me to know even how to approach that. And I want to, so I'm trying to remain curious, but I guess I'm looking for like the emotions and the parts that might be behind that, because philosophically, like I don't even know what it would mean to answer that.
Yeah. Yeah. Undeserver is an interesting guy. I feel like, yeah. But yeah, the question is it okay to exist? Like, or is existence just kind of some sick torture chamber or something?
Could it be both?
I don't know.
Like if it's a sick torture chamber, let's say, hey, life is suffering, but also I didn't choose it. And I'm like, I know you had a part that said like life wants to exist, but it's like, let's just say like I totally didn't want to exist. I got born totally like I didn't even want to get born, but they made me get born. But is it possible that it could be okay while also having that fundamental nature of suffering or quality of suffering?
Like he's willing to accept that there should be, or that there can be, some suffering for life to still be meaningful. But for it to be like a torture chamber, I don't know. Like that seems kind of a little bit incompatible with it being okay to exist. Yeah.
Right. But we see, I mean, you observe that at least most of your reality, your parts and the people around you they're not in actual hell, torture chamber, right?
It's hard to say. Like, even if my parts aren't, there are a lot of people in the world who are really suffering. But honestly, like, if I think about it, a lot of my parts are really suffering. And it, I live a pretty privileged life, but I give myself so much mental anguish sometimes that it almost doesn't matter,
Right.
And I'm just like, is that kind of just what life is supposed to be? Or something. Maybe not that question exactly, but something along those lines. And, I look at the people around me that I care about and I see sometimes they seem happy, but a lot of times they seem like they're just struggling to sort of pretend to be happy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that not okay?
Yeah, I'm not really okay with that. Like, I'm not okay with finding out that at least that's the way it has to be. I don't want it to be that way inherently.
Okay. So there's a part that wants it to just be happiness. It wants
Just
heaven.
happiness, but it wants a fundamental feeling of like, this was really worth something. Like this is something I would bring someone else into, which is a real question for me because I want to have kids.
Is it theoretically possible for you to make your own life worth something?
That's kind of my whole question. Yeah. Like, is it? I don't know.
Let's find out. Is it possible for anyone?
I don't know. I have no idea.
How would we find out? Because if it's an unanswerable question, then what do we do with unanswerable questions?
We would find out.
What are the criteria of worthiness, and how do we know that like someone did or didn't make their life worth living?
Yeah, that's a good question, and an answer immediately popped into my head. Actually, is that connect with self and heal, and if Undeserver can heal and feel better, then that would really mean something to him.
Is that coming from him? Does he say if he could heal and feel better, then that would
he's kind of like just let me see that I can heal.
Okay. What does he need to heal, or what would healing look like for him?
Unburdening, but he's not really sure exactly where his burdens are or what they look like. So that's hard for him to conceptualize.
Are some of his burdens these questions that might not have answers?
Yeah, they must be. But
what would it mean? What would it mean to be unburdened? Like, what would it look like, or what would it mean to be unburdened of the questions?
It would either be to have answers for them or to understand that they don't need answers.
Okay. I'm with you on that.
Okay. And he's not sure how he's going to get there. I think maybe that's it. It's not that he can't see the burdens. It's that he has no idea how they would be lifted.
When it comes to getting the answers, you're pretty well read, or you're familiar with general philosophies of the world and people's approaches, right?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah.
So like if some people definitely had the answers, you feel like you would be able to kind of grasp that, or to see, at least be aware that like, okay, these people have a system or a mode of answering this question that is satisfactory.
Yeah, and I feel like IFS and reaching self is kind of the closest thing I've found to what might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do feel like I'm doing as much research as I can.
Okay. So if self is the answer, what are you researching?
How to get there, I guess. But I mean, to a large extent, I've done all the research I need to do.
I agree.
But I still don't know how to connect undeserver to self. Like, I know there's a way, and I know that parts are standing in the way. It's just very strange how ignorant I feel of how to get them out of the way.
Okay. I just want to express my sympathy for that. That sounds tough.
It is tough. Thank you. Yeah.
And it may be a very different journey for different people. So, I want to always check my own bias about like, hey, everybody, this is the thing. Just do what I do. Like it might be really, really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
and harder than I can understand,
It's hard for undeserver to connect to self. I don't exactly know why. I think he's resistant to self, and I think daughter is in front of him a lot of the time anyway. So it's like both of them.
Okay. Should we check on the daughter in front of him thing? Would that be a good next step? Okay.
Yeah, she's always wanting a quick fix, wanting him to just believe her because she's very like committed to the things that she's found out, and she holds her thing is to kind of seek knowledge, and she feels like she's very good at it. And she's like, I've found these things and they seem really true to me.
And he doesn't believe me.
Yeah. Or he kind of, on some level, he does believe her, and it still doesn't matter because he doesn't feel it.
Because he knows that what he needs is to be in connection with self.
Yes.
And that is, in fact, a feeling thing and not a thinking thing.
Exactly.
Okay. How does she respond to that?
She really just wants to get him there somehow. Although I did just feel an interesting fear pop up when saying that maybe if he gets to self and he's not satisfied, then there's nothing else. There's no other idea that she has that's better. So maybe that's why she's scared.
How's her connection? How's her relationship with self?
It is tricky because she appreciates self when she gets it, but she doesn't allow herself to get it very often. She thinks she can substitute believing in it for experiencing it. And she keeps getting in the way because she keeps wanting to check if things are happening, which is very ironic because it's what's preventing things from happening.
And what does she need in order to stop doing so much checking and to take some time to connect with self?
She needs to know that she's not going to be the one that has to do everything. Like, she still sort of on a basic level doesn't believe, like, she believes very much intellectually in self, but she still is also like, well, what is this, like, random loving presence going to do? Like, what action is it going to take? Like, she's so used to being the only one who ever does any action. And so she's afraid that if she steps back, everything will just slow way down and nothing will happen. And it'll just be super boring and depressing and nobody will get anywhere.
Okay.
And she knows that's irrational, but she still feels that way.
What would happen if, like, you just set a timer for 5 minutes and said, like, okay, well, let's not. I mean, because it sounds like she's concerned about things slowing down and you getting nowhere, like, as some kind of permanent state. But I'm just asking if she can, like, hang out with self for any amount of time and start developing trust in the feeling.
She would love to in theory, but she's already predicting that if she did that, she would immediately get in her own way. She's like, I don't know what to do about myself. She doesn't think that five minutes would. She would set a timer for 5 minutes, breathe for like 5 seconds, and then be like, and then check to make sure that she wasn't checking. And then she'd be like, oh, well, the 5 minutes is ruined because I checked.
Okay.
She's very like snake chasing its own tail.
And how about her, what is her concerns again about if self were to just get in touch with Undeserver?
Then if he wasn't satisfied with what he learned, then she would feel hopeless.
Okay.
Because self is the best bet.
So she has an intellectual thumbs up with IFS and self being an answer.
Mm-hmm.
The part called Undeserver is asking for healing, which she has courageously suggested that comes through feeling and not through and being unburdened by his questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm wondering, like, if she's saying she's cool with it, and this is just between self and another part, what's left to get in the way?
That is a very good question. She's kind of asked herself questions like that too before, and she doesn't totally know the answer. But yeah, well, she can ask it again. Like, what is standing in the way? She's like, I don't know how to get out of the way. And what if I'm in the way anyway, somehow? She's afraid of herself.
You mentioned that she has been in touch with self in certain periods of time to some degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self actually guides her a lot when she's doing IFS with other people. Because it just drops these questions on her and then she knows what to ask. But
I didn't quite follow that.
Oh,
she's conducting the IFS sessions with other people.
Yeah, like when she does IFS, like my friend and I do IFS stuff together a lot, and it's been really nice in a lot of ways, and you know, like she manages to just get these feelings sometimes about what needs to happen next, and she doesn't really think that they're totally coming from her. Like, she's pretty sure that self is like giving her pointers. Yeah. So
why is she conducting the sessions if self has the superior intuition?
Because there's.
What's she afraid would happen if she didn't?
She just doesn't know how not to, and she thinks it's just realistic that everybody who conducts IFS is pretty much doing it through the voice of their manager. Like, she really thinks it's a rare person who isn't.
Okay.
And so she's just kind of being honest about that, I guess. Like in terms of herself.
Okay, so it's a joint effort. So she's saying, look, it's a joint effort. We have to have some management, or else we would just, I don't know.
She doesn't even think there has to be management. She just thinks that managers don't know how to step back a lot of the time, and she's one of them. So she thinks it would be probably ideal if self were in the hum, but she doesn't know how to accomplish that.
So she's done all the research about IFS.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know how managers get to step back. Like what notes does she have about the steps to get managers to step back?
Well, it's to not worry so much, basically. And not insert yourself, but she's pretty sure that everybody is inserting themselves a little bit all the time. And so she's like, I don't want to beat myself up about that, because like
that's good.
Doing what I can, and it's been working.
Right, but when it comes to the steps,
yeah,
like, you've read the book, so they don't say like, hey, don't worry and don't insert yourself so much.
Yeah.
They talk about noticing a part and then starting with how it shows up in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then checking with your feelings towards that part.
Yeah.
And those are some of the first kind of steps from blending.
Right.
So how does that work for her and for self with her?
She'd like to do that.
Okay. How do you notice her in your body?
She's a thinking presence.
Mm-hmm.
She's keeping an eye on things.
Do you have any other physical sensations?
Well, that's the thing. It's hard to notice her in my body. And so it's hard to get her to step back, because it's hard to.
How do you feel towards her?
Kind of, I guess, blended with her, or blended with a firefighter, another manager or something, because I feel protective of her and defensive of her. Yeah.
Can you say more about that feeling of being protective and defensive of her?
Yeah.
So what's the concern?
That how do I explain? Oh, and just so you know, I do have to run in like a few minutes, because I have like a D&D game to get to, and I don't want people to be like mad at me for being late. So
okay, no problem.
But okay, she feels like
the protective defensive feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she knows what she's doing wrong. She knows that she's doing things wrong, and she knows basically what it is. And she wants to fix it, but hasn't understood exactly how yet. And nonetheless, she's been doing pretty well for herself and pretty well by other people. And her IFS with other people has actually gone pretty well. Yeah, and she just wants you to know that, I guess.
I believe all of that.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-parts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring more love and understanding into her world.
Yeah.
That's to me what unblending is about. It's about being with parts.
Yeah.
From self energy, rather than them having to be alone and running the show by themselves and managing these other parts in you.
Yeah, I agree. But part of her feeling is that it is like she's not the all-time master of IFS. Like, she is an amateur, but at the same time, it is very routine for IFS therapists to be run by managers to an extent greater than she is. Because the stories that she's
okay. I'm curious why she's sharing that. Why is she telling me about other practitioners and their blendedness?
Because she thinks that you don't believe that it is extremely routine and normal for managers to be involved in IFS.
I think the people are run by parts all day long. Most people.
Yeah.
I don't think that IFS practitioners are immune from being blended. I'm blended all the time in my calls, and
okay. She just wasn't sure from what you were saying.
Yeah, I still don't know, like, if we're just talking about her relationship to yourself.
Yes.
Why we're talking about my opinions about other practitioners' blendedness.
Because it sort of sounded as if you thought she was doing something wrong there, doing something unwise, or
I think she's there for a good reason. And I don't think she's a bad part.
Well, I don't think she's a bad part.
Yeah, I guess I don't want to. I apologize if it sounded like that. My goal here isn't to examine your skills as a practitioner with other people, which I've never even seen.
Right.
It's not really the topic that I was interested in, and I'm sorry if I made it sound like that's what I wanted to talk about, or if it sounded like I was being critical of that, or have really any opinion about that, because I don't.
Yeah,
I don't have any right to have any opinion about that.
It sounded like maybe there was an opinion in there. At least it sounded like that to her.
Yeah, I was wondering why she is leading the sessions if she finds that Self's intuition is superior to her own.
Because that's just kind of how, like, she hasn't found a way not to. But she thinks that is kind of while it is unideal, it's kind of just the state of things with unless you really, really, really worked on yourself for a long time.
Right. So she's saying that the ideal is for you to be self-led and for her to be and for her to trust in self.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense to me. I agree.
Yeah.
one thing I was aiming for here was to bring in a degree of self and to do that practice that I was talking about of what unblending looks like.
Yeah.
And taking it out of the idea that it has to be 100% or it has to be for 5 minutes, and just getting any amount in there. It's something you have experienced. She has experience. She likes it, and she says it's ideal.
Yes. And it is hard to figure out why, if that's the case, why she doesn't make more progress. And I think it's because I think she might have like some kind of exile that thinks that nothing will ever get better, nothing will change. Or maybe it's just her having that experience in life and not being able to let go of that fear.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
All protectors have exiles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, whoever just intuited that, high five.
Yeah, she's kind of like she's kind of known about that exhale for a little while, but we don't know very much about it. It's very hard to find it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to respect your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Was there a degree of self that arrived and was with her or any of these parts? Did we accomplish any of that here?
I think we went over kind of the whole lay of the land in this session and sort of like got a picture of it. And I think there were some moments for sure when there was like a little bit of self here and there, because self is kind of the one that gives some of these insights about where things are. Like self sees stuff, points it out. So yeah, there was, part would step back 5% here and there, but there wasn't like a big self moment, but there rarely is with me.
Okay. Well, I admire you sticking with it and caring, and all of your parts that care and are, again, they're there for a good reason.
Yeah.
And I do apologize that I haven't helped more, or that if it feels like it's slow progress. And I definitely apologize if my own parts or any space I created was not what your parts were looking for in this conversation.
Well, I think like I'm not trying to say anything bad here. I'm just gathering my words. I think that if it's been hard to make progress, it's definitely more to do with my burdens being tricky to figure out than with like the help you've given me. I appreciate the time and energy that you've dedicated to me the past year. And yeah, just daughter is just very I don't know, sensitive to what people think of her, and sensitive to like if she thinks somebody is like going like, you're doing that wrong. Partially because
I think she's bright and beautiful.
She tries to keep an eye on herself on what she's doing wrong.
I think she's bright and beautiful, and I think I am in 100% agreement with her that self is the natural leader of the system, and that self would also be the ideal leader in an IFS session or in our own parts work, that is kind of the definition of the aim here. But it's not a criticism of parts. It's the nature of humans.
Yeah, it's just always gonna kind of be a thing that parts will arise when you're doing the work.
Yeah, parts can't be self.
Yeah, but they'll be there still.
Right.
All right.
All right. I appreciate your time too.
Thank you. All right. See ya.
Okay. I'll be in touch. Good night. Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.